Hello, and a deeply unsettling welcome to, well, this. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Today's topic is about as fun as a root canal performed by a badger with anger management issues. We're talking about countries teetering on the precipice, nations staring down the abyss of collapse. Now, before you click away to watch a video of a cat riding a Roomba dressed as a shark, which, let's be honest, sounds significantly more delightful, I urge you to stick around, because these impending crises, while happening thousands of miles away for most of us, have ripple effects that can be felt globally. From economic turmoil so profound it would make a Lehman Brothers executive break a sweat to political instability that makes a game of Jenga look like a model of consistency. These 10 countries are facing challenges so monumental they'd give even the most optimistic person pause. So buckle up, grab a stiff drink, and let's dive into the top 10 countries on the brink in 2025. Venezuela, once an oil-rich paradise, now finds itself in a situation so dire it makes your average government shutdown look like a well-deserved bank holiday. We're talking about a level of economic mismanagement that could make even the most incompetent Bond villain raise an eyebrow. Hyperinflation has become so absurd that using Venezuelan currency to buy groceries is like trying to put out a house fire with a super soaker. It's utterly worthless. And the political landscape, let's just say it makes the Hatfield-McCoy feud look like a polite disagreement over a garden fence. People are fleeing the country in droves, desperate for basic necessities like food and medicine. It's a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, and the world watches, seemingly powerless to stop it. This is a country where the most stable thing is probably the Wi-Fi signal in a dictator's bunker. It's a stark reminder that even nations once considered prosperous can fall victim to the worst kinds of mismanagement. And as we move on to our next entry, remember this: Venezuela's story is far from unique. Syria. Even uttering the name evokes images of unimaginable suffering. A decade-long civil war has turned this once vibrant nation into a smouldering ruin, a tragic testament to the human capacity for destruction. The statistics are staggering. Millions displaced, countless lives lost, and a generation scarred by the horrors of war. Imagine for a moment, if you will, having to flee your home, leaving behind everything you've ever known with only the clothes on your back and the hope of survival. The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis of unimaginable scale, with millions relying on international aid for survival. And as if the relentless violence wasn't enough, the country is also grappling with a crippled economy, widespread poverty, and a political system fractured beyond repair. Syria is a nation on its knees, a stark reminder of the devastating human cost of conflict. And as the world grapples with how to help, one can only hope that peace will eventually return to this ravaged land. Yemen, a land often described as a paradise lost, is now synonymous with one of the most dire humanitarian crises of our time. This isn't a war making headlines, it's a war happening in the shadows, a slow-motion catastrophe unfolding far from the cameras and the conscience of the world. Imagine a place where children are more likely to die from hunger than from old age, where hospitals lie in ruins, victims of airstrikes that seem to target hope itself, where clean water is a luxury and food a distant dream. This is Yemen today, a nation ravaged by a brutal civil war fueled by outside powers more concerned with geopolitical chess matches than the lives of innocent civilians. It's a conflict where famine is a weapon, where humanitarian aid is routinely blocked, and where peace seems like an impossible dream. The world may have forgotten Yemen, but the people of Yemen haven't forgotten what it means to be human. They cling to hope, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. And it's our responsibility, as citizens of the world, to not only remember their plight, but to demand an end to this senseless war. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, entered the world in 2011 amid a wave of optimism, but like a newborn bird pushed from the nest too soon, it has struggled to take flight, its wings clipped by corruption, conflict, and a chronic lack of resources. Imagine a country where the average life expectancy is barely 50 years old, where access to basic healthcare is a privilege few can afford, where violence is so commonplace that it's become woven into the fabric of everyday life. This is South Sudan's reality, a nation grappling with a civil war that has displaced millions, crippled its economy, and left its people reeling from trauma. It's a heartbreaking example of how quickly hope can curdle into despair, how the promise of a new beginning can be shattered by the ghosts of the past. As the international community struggles to find a solution to this complex crisis, one can only hope that South Sudan can find a path toward peace and stability, allowing its people to finally build the future they so desperately deserve. Afghanistan, a land etched with the scars of countless conflicts, finds itself at yet another crossroads. The hasty withdrawal of US forces in 2021 after 2 decades of war left a power vacuum quickly filled by the Taliban, a group notorious for its brutal interpretation of Islamic law. Imagine a country where girls are denied an education, where music is silenced, and where fear hangs heavy in the air. This is the reality for millions of Afghans living under Taliban rule. The economy is in freefall, international aid has dwindled, and basic human rights are routinely trampled upon. The dreams of a generation who dared to hope for a brighter future have been shattered, replaced by uncertainty and fear. The world watches, seemingly powerless to reverse Afghanistan's tragic fate. But we must not allow this nation to fade into oblivion. The Afghan people deserve our support, our solidarity, and our unwavering commitment to ensuring that their voices are heard. Haiti, a nation synonymous with resilience, finds itself trapped in a seemingly endless cycle of disaster and despair. From the devastating earthquake of 2010 to the assassination of its president in 2021, Haiti has been dealt blow after blow, each one pushing it closer to the brink. Imagine a place where gangs control the streets, where kidnappings are rampant, and where even the most basic necessities like food and water are scarce. This is the grim reality for millions of Haitians. The political landscape is fractured, the economy is in shambles, and the humanitarian crisis deepens with each passing day. It's a nation crying out for help, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of poverty, inequality, and political instability. The world cannot afford to turn its back on Haiti. We must demand accountability from its leaders, provide meaningful aid to its people, and work tirelessly to support a brighter future for this beleaguered nation. Lebanon, once known as the Paris of the Middle East, now faces a collapse so profound it feels like watching a slow-motion car crash into a dumpster fire. What was once a beacon of relative prosperity in a volatile region is now a cautionary tale of corruption, mismanagement, and breathtaking economic incompetence. Imagine a country where the currency has lost almost all its value, where people queue for hours for basic goods, and where the middle class is evaporating faster than a puddle in Death Valley. That's Lebanon's present reality. The 2020 Beirut port explosion, a tragedy fueled by government negligence so profound it would make even the most apathetic bureaucrat blush, was a gut punch to a nation already on its knees. And let's not forget the ever-present political instability, a delightful cocktail of sectarian tensions and foreign interference that makes the Middle East the geopolitical equivalent of a room full of toddlers fighting over a single juice box. Lebanon's future is uncertain, its people burdened by a crisis largely not of their own making. It's a stark reminder that even in the supposed centers of civilization, the veneer of stability can be terrifyingly thin. Zimbabwe. This is a nation synonymous with hyperinflation so extreme it makes the Weimar Republic look like a bastion of fiscal responsibility. We're talking about a country where you could end up pushing a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread, and I'm not even exaggerating for comedic effect. This is genuinely a thing that happened. After decades of authoritarian rule under Robert Mugabe, a man who treated his country's economy like a personal piggy bank he kept forgetting to refill, Zimbabwe finds itself grappling with the long-term consequences of unchecked corruption and disastrous economic policies. Imagine a country where unemployment is rampant, where basic services like healthcare and education are on the brink of collapse, and where the gap between the haves and the have-nots could swallow a small moon. That's Zimbabwe's current reality. The road ahead is long and arduous, but the Zimbabwean people deserve a chance at a future free from the shackles of economic mismanagement and political repression. Libya, a nation blessed with vast oil reserves, should be a picture of prosperity. Instead, it's a fractured land, locked in a seemingly endless cycle of violence and chaos. A stark reminder that sometimes having an abundance of natural resources is like winning the lottery, but losing the ticket before you can cash it in. Since the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, Libya has been plagued by a brutal civil war, with rival factions vying for control of this oil-rich prize. Imagine a country where militias hold more power than the government, where kidnappings are commonplace, and where the rule of law is about as consistent as a desert mirage. The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions, with millions displaced and desperate for basic necessities. It's a nation crying out for peace, a place where the hopes and aspirations of its people have been buried under the rubble of war. The international community has a responsibility to help Libya find a path to stability and reconciliation. The alternative is a continued descent into chaos, a prospect that would have devastating consequences for the region and beyond. Somalia, a nation synonymous with piracy and famine, has long been perched precariously on the edge of collapse. Decades of conflict, drought and political instability have left this Horn of Africa nation reeling, its people trapped in a seemingly endless cycle of suffering. Imagine a country where Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda, controls vast swathes of territory, terrorizing the population and hindering aid efforts. Where children are dying from hunger, their emaciated bodies are a heartbreaking testament to the world's indifference. Somalia is a nation in desperate need of a functioning government, a unified front against terrorism, and a massive influx of humanitarian aid. But it's also a place where resilience and hope persist, where people cling to the belief that a better tomorrow is possible. The world cannot afford to turn its back on Somalia. We must demand accountability from its leaders, provide meaningful assistance to its people, and work tirelessly to support a more stable and prosperous future for this beleaguered nation. So, there you have it. 10 countries staring down the abyss, each facing a unique set of challenges that threaten to unravel the very fabric of their societies. It's a bleak picture, I'll grant you, and if I've learned anything from hosting this show, it's that optimism is often best served with a large side of cynicism. But amidst the despair, there are glimmers of hope. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help their neighbors, activists risking their lives to speak truth to power, and humanitarian organizations working tirelessly to alleviate suffering. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit has an uncanny knack for finding light. These countries are facing immense challenges and their futures remain uncertain. Stay informed and let's hope for better days ahead for these nations. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more insightful content.